Talking Akron men's soccer with the head coach of the Zips, Jared Embick. Coach, thanks for carving out some time to talk.
Yeah, happy to be on and excited.
Looking at your resume as a head coach, since you took over this program in 2012 as the head coach, you have the highest win percentage in the NCAA. Obviously, if the foundation was set before you took over as head coach with Caleb Porter, Akron wins the national championship in 2010. But how have you been able to continue this program's upward trajectory and build that consistent winner as the years have gone on?
Yeah, I think we've just kind of kept to the formula and try to evolve it, with the times and a lot of it is based on our style of play and we've been able to attract a lot of good players because we play, an attacking possessive style and most people recommend, really skillful players to us because of that style. And then it's obviously with the training is probably the most important. Get the good players and then train them hard and then go out and test yourself against very good teams.
You yourself, you just returned from a trip to St. Louis to the Mac Hermann Trophy celebration. Obviously, Emil Jashkalainen was a finalist for this year's Mac Hermann Trophy. What was that experience like? I know Akron as a program has two previous Mac Hermann winners, but for you to get down there with Emil and just kind of experience what that was like, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, no, I think it's always exciting when you have a player that is up for an award that prestigious and it's pretty cool because you get there and you can see they take you in a room and you can see all the past winners' jerseys and realize that amongst college soccer, that experience to put yourself at that level, that caliber of player is very special for the player, and then obviously for the university to be able to have a player of that caliber. And we've had previous winners, and it was always nice to get back and celebrate the year Emil had and be in that environment.
As we were talking before we started recording, obviously you're a St. Louis, Metro East guy. I grew up in the St. Louis area as well. And, I feel like a lot of people don't realize just the deep college soccer history that city has. I mean, obviously the Billikens with the most NCAA championships in NCAA history. And so for you professionally, how cool was that maybe as a sort of a full circle moment to get to go back to where an area that you're very familiar with and be a part of the Missouri Athletic Club celebration? And I know guys like an Alexi Lawless were there, doing his podcast, and it was sort of a who's who of the soccer world kind of converged
Yeah,
on St. Louis.
no, it was great. I had a couple friends that grew up playing with and come to the events, to support me. And when I grew up in Granite City, so sometimes St. Louis doesn't want to acknowledge any success from Granite City on that side of the river. But a lot of got to catch up with some people I haven't seen in a long time, and that makes it more special. And then ideally, hopefully, we can make a more regular visit with players like Emil.
And sticking with Emil, finishes the season with 22 goals, led the nation in goals. I just That's so mind-boggling to hear that number, right? I mean, in a college season to score 22 goals. Have you seen a player at this level that has as big of a nose for goal as Emil?
No, I mean we've had a couple guys that have played striker and won the Herman, and I think Teal had 18 goals when he won. So he got close, but I feel like in terms of just a pure finisher, pure striker, able to score with his head, right foot, left foot, and Meal could invent ways to score, and I feel like at times he was a bit unlucky. I remember one game he had three posts. It was he could have had more, and I wish we would have been able to play longer. I think he could have ended up with 30.
That's so crazy to think about. 30, almost, 30 goals in a college soccer season would be mind-boggling. For your program, you spent a lot of time in the Mid-American Conference. Obviously, the Mid-American Conference on the men's soccer side has since gone away, and you're now part of the Big East. What is the biggest difference between MAC soccer and Big East soccer? And I guess how much of an adjustment has there been adapting to that league?
Yeah, the MAC when it ended up not going anymore, you had Western Michigan who's been a tournament team, and done very well. Bowling Green was coming on strong. Um, but we always struggled past that, the depth of the league, when West Virginia was in it, they, I think finished last place more than they finished first. But we really struggled to keep teams in the league and I think that kind of led to the end of it. Um, with the Big East, it's just the depth, there's 12 teams and I feel like every team has someone that's capable of winning a game in the front half, and they all can defend well. So, I feel like the first goal in that league is hugely important, and you got some travel. So the MAC, you're a bus ride almost every trip, and now you got some flights, and your bus trips are a little bit longer. I think for us, the biggest adjustment, I felt like our first year, we were so excited to be in the conference uh, that we didn't play with a lot of intensity, and these other teams came out so intense and made the game so difficult for us. And we ended up with a lot of draws in those games. And this year, I felt like our team came out with the intensity that the other teams had, and we were able to now, showcase ourselves better in the league. But I think the depth of the league and the quality of the coaches, it's a grind to get through.
Looking at college soccer kind of as a whole for a moment, obviously Vermont wins the national championship this year. They have the golden goal to beat Marshall in the College Cup final. And when you talk to a lot of people, pundits, media that cover college soccer, they almost credit Akron in 2010 with kicking off the parity era of college soccer, where it feels like almost anybody can win a national championship any given year. I'm curious, is that something you see? Do you really feel as a coach that we're in this era now where almost anybody any given year can finish at the top of the table and put a star on their crest?
Yeah, I think more so with the transfer portal because pre-transfer portal to find a transfer, maybe like a meal, he's gonna have to, be interested in your school and send you a release. And you're not even sure a meal's gonna be available, right? Like it's not like you're sending an email to Emil, hey, are you on the portal? Like that's illegal. So you really only get transfers that come across you through email or a phone call. Well, now with the portal, you can see who's out there, and um, there's so many talented players all over the country and in Division Two, Division Three, um, that now like teams like Vermont or other teams can have a large pool to pick from, and they could take some kids from Division Two, like I believe the guy who scored the game winner was a Division Two transfer, and you can find players that can fit your team there. And I think the transfer portal makes it where anybody can build a good team. Obviously, you need some resources and support from your administration, but um, so many good youth players. Obviously, the international players that are coming over are getting better and better. And now you add an opportunity if you want to just build an experienced team, and you lose guys, you can place them with fifth year seniors, juniors, and have an experienced team, even if there may be some teams that have a little more talent. So I think it's made the level a lot better, a lot more challenging, and I do feel like you can see more teams like Vermont, even Marshall's established himself, but when they won it, obviously they weren't as established as they are now, and including ourselves when we won it, we weren't as established as we are now. You guys, I think you're going to see a lot more of those teams. Denver knocking on the door, quite often, and you look at the Final Four this year, no ACC teams, right? So, you had the Big Ten team. Were they the only? Were they the only power conference team in there?
They were, yeah. You had
Yeah,
American East, Sun Belt, Summit League, and then the Big Ten represented. So kind of a unique College Cup semifinals.
yeah. I just think because the depth of players in world soccer and the transfer portal, it allows you to maybe find some ways, even if you don't have the biggest budget, to put together a really quality team. And like everything, it's uh, how healthy can you stay? Can you evolve as the season goes on and you know, kind of become a more balanced team? And I thought you saw good representation of four really good teams in the Final Four.
One of the things that I hear people say about college soccer, one of kind of the knocks on it, I guess, is they feel like recently it's maybe lost some relevance because now guys don't have to go play 4 years in college to end up in the super draft or in the MLS. You can go through these academy systems. Obviously, the MLS has done a really good job of fleshing out the MLS Next Pro level as well. But for your program, 8 players taken in the top five, 12 taken in the top 10 in the MLS Super Draft under you as a head coach. So I'm curious, how do you continue from a developmental standpoint to churn out these guys that become attractive super draft options for MLS teams?
Yeah, I mean, you get them, they're already talented, and now I think it's uh, when you recruit the right guys and you put them in, you know, the right fit. I think so. When we recruit these skillful guys that we feel are very talented, they also fit our idea of playing the way we want to play, and then I'm able to put them in situations where they can showcase that strength at another level, maybe surround them with an even better uh, team than what they've came from, and then that allows them to take off. And I think that's kind of the key. I think you can see a lot of times some guys get, choose a school that they like, maybe because of name, but it's not the right fit, and they struggle until they get to the right fit. I think our key has been recruiting players that have really fit us, that we know with the way we play, we can showcase them even better and surround them with better talent, and then push them and get them to that next step.
Your all's home environment at Akron. I've seen the pictures of, the sellout crowds and the fan support that you all get for your home matches. What makes your all's home venue so special and so difficult for other teams to play in?
Yeah, I mean it's in the middle of campus. I think the setting's unbelievable, and because of the success, we've got a great community that comes out and supports us, and then it really starts with the students as well. When they get fired up and they get behind the goal and bring that energy, and it could really not only boost us but kind of rattle the opponents at times. And I think that's just kind of been something that you learn here once you get here, how important soccer is, and how special it is, and people want to go to the games and feel that.
You all partake in the College Spring League with teams like an Ohio State, a Marshall, a Louisville. A great spring league. Obviously, you and I, as we talk, we have kind of that connection there because I also cover the spring league in the off season, and we've seen these spring leagues start to rise up more. The ACC has the Spring Cup down in Wake Forest, where West Virginia has just joined. Some of the non-power Carolina teams have formed the Carolina Cup, the Gardner Webbs, the UNC Greensboros of the world. What does playing part in a spring league do to sort of set the stage for the coming fall season?
Yeah, I mean it's most of these players are competitive. They want to compete for something, and before the spring league, it's very hard to maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is you're building for the fall and trying to get that team in a good situation to win championships, and just to add that extra layer of intensity to say, hey, look, we got, it might only be 10 teams, but hey, we got a chance to really uh, prove ourselves in the spring, and guys that haven't had that chance in the fall, you're going to play games where, hey, yeah, we want to win. Something's on the line, even if it's not 200 teams, right? It's the 10 teams in our league are all very good. So if you can prove yourself against those 10 teams, that confidence is going to take over for you in the summer. You should come back in the fall feeling great as a team. Same thing. You can really build a lot of momentum, and it's just a lot easier to maybe get something out of the spring for everybody, and really test the players a little bit that haven't been able to play as much in the fall. Put them in a little bit of a pressure environment, and see how they do. Put a little bit more expectations on them, because you're not going to grow without that pressure, without that expectations, without, some that standard that you have to be held to. And I think part of the problem with college is when you go 6 months and games don't mean anything, it's really hard to, uh, maybe see the growth in players that you want.
The rise of these spring leagues has almost coincided with the big push, the 21st century model, which I know has changed a little bit. There's been tweaks made to the proposal of it over the last couple of years. But, for those that don't know, the general premise is shifting college soccer to more of a year round where you play non-conference in the fall, take a brief winter break, and then play your conference tournament and then the NCAA tournament in the spring. From your perspective, is that a change you would welcome in college soccer? Do you think something like that would be beneficial to the college game?
Yeah, I think anytime you can play meaningful games over more months, it helps, right? Like I think there's a lot of things that maybe have to work out, like we've never done outside of COVID, but you've never done a season where you start in the fall and then in the spring. Um, and then there's typically in semesters there's a lot of movement. Like we lost 9 guys, but we brought in 7 in January, right? So that then affects the competition. And I think there's got to be some things worked out for the competition. But as a coach, if you could play, you know, 10, 12 months, 10, 11, 12 months, you want that for growth, development. You want that competitiveness. Ideally for soccer, the perfect situation would be to start in March and end in November, right? Play through the summer, but you can't do those things. I also think, like, meantime, while we can't get the 21st century passed, or we're working on that model to get it over the hump, I wish we would really try some things like getting allowed to be in the Open Cup, right? An amateur tournament, like whether it be the Final Four teams, Elite Eight, Sweet 16, or whether they open up to everyone. You get some meaningful games and some cool opportunities in the spring when maybe you didn't have them. Um, or extend the spring season to 7 games or something. Like, I feel like we could be getting some other things done that can, move the game, inch it forward a little bit while we're working on our big proposal to hopefully get us to a model where we feel like we can really develop players and really help the pyramid in US.
That Open Cup aspect that you threw out, that's something I see people talk about on social media. And of course, as a St. Louis guy, with St. Louis having so many U.S. Open Cup championships, I love the Open Cup, the magic of the cup, right? And I think that'd be great. Imagine having college teams as part of a bona fide part of the pyramid partaking in the U.S. Open Cup. I'd co sign that every day of the week that ends in Y.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it'd be exciting. And I know, for the schools, everything comes down now to cost. So, Um, anytime I brought it up to my administration, they're like, well, what happens if you're playing in June when school's out? I'm like, for playing in June, you're probably playing an MLS team, a USL championship team. That exposure is going to help the university program tenfold more than what you spent. But, there's still got to be some cost there with travel and that at this day and age is probably a deal breaker with the settlement, and I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on budgets and cost and where things are being spent. So, right now it's probably an idea for the future, but somebody I wish or hope can happen someday.
You mentioned something interesting there. You talk about the settlement, obviously, with the roster, the new roster scholarship limits, those rules being changed, the revenue sharing is coming down the pipeline starting next season. For you as a head coach of a sport that, as we know in college sports, college football and college basketball, sort of kind of drive the bus a little bit in college athletics. And for you as a coach of a men's soccer team, how do these changes to the NCAA model, how does that make maybe your job different, maybe more difficult, easier, what have you?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone there's a little concern there, because each school is going to operate differently and um, maybe divvy out the resources differently based on what they feel. So I think it's for you, you're trying to maintain, relevancy on your campus and community in the area, and gotta probably puts pressure on you to do well because it could flip at any time. Or you got to be able to find those resources that you need to be successful, whether it's through the alumni or through donors or other avenues. I think it brings um, more challenges onto how you run the whole program. Like you got to take more responsibility and making sure you're competitive and you give the administration a lot of positives to keep you and support you and give you a chance to win things.
And kind of spinning off of that, looking at your coaching career, you spent 3 seasons as an assistant coach at Missouri Baptist, and you get hired as an assistant coach at Akron in '07, and you've been at Akron ever since, getting promoted to the head coaching role. Why is Akron such a good fit for you, both personally and professionally? Because that kind of longevity we don't often see in college athletics as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been like, I don't want to say smaller, but I've always been more of an underdog, and that has kind of, have always fought his way up the ladder or had to prove himself. And I feel like, Akron's kind of a unique place that fits my personality, not only in the community, but as a school where we always have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder, always want a little more respect. And I feel like also what we created here in the soccer environment, if I were to go anyplace else, I'm going to try to get it to the level we're at here, and so why sometimes I ask myself if I feel like I could still be successful creating what we've created here and evolving it, why go start over to try to get back to this step? For me, the next step would be, maybe the professional leagues or some opportunity like that. Obviously, the question now is where does support in men's soccer happen in college soccer and what happens here in the near future that could influence the decision. But in the past, it's always been, I'm happy. Um, I know I really fit in well here in terms of with the school and community and like the area. It's not a college town, so some of these bigger name schools, you're in college towns, and when you're raising a family, you're far away from a big city. We're 30 minutes from Cleveland, and you can kind of hide in between Cleveland and Akron and go see big sporting events and kind of have a normal life. And you're not driving an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there. Um, and it's just not, not nothing against the college towns, but I think when you go to raise a family, this is for me, better place. And the support I've been given has given me no reason to kind of test the waters. Never been one to just, uh, you know, been really, really cautious if I'm happy and pleased that you just don't go chase things to chase things sometimes.
Amen to that. When you find your fit, you find your fit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I see all those jerseys on the wall behind you. First off, how much of an advantage in recruiting does that help? Does that play when you can walk guys into your office and be like, "Hey, you want to be one of these? Come play for me."
No, I think well, a lot of the players that are going to come to Division I schools and especially successful ones, that's what they want to know is, hey, is there a path for me to get to the next level, right? Like right now, I don't have the options I like. They may not be giving me the right deal, or can I come here and get that? Can I develop here and get put in a situation? Or look, no one's noticed me, but if I can do the job here, can I get those opportunities to move on and play my dream? And this is what validates it, right? Seeing all the jerseys and the players that we've been able to put at the next level in the various leagues and get guys opportunities, and it's a huge advantage, and also makes for a nice office.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask is, do you have a favorite, not player, but a favorite jersey on your wall back there that you really like?
Oh man, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's days when you look at the wall and some of the jerseys, and brings back good memories. And there may be some days you choose one of the players and others, but everybody on the wall, like, look, they have a story, and that story's been told to our teams. Like the adversity they've gone through to get to where they're at, and how they had to fight through things even at Akron or before Akron, and then to become successful. Those are, those stories motivate the next generation of Zips. And you know, uh, it's hard to pick one because, like I said, you can sit here and I could tell you about each of them, and you'd think they're my favorite.
I think the fact that you had to look around all corners of the room and all the jerseys kind of says it all right there of the type of success you all have had of putting guys, the spoil of riches, right? Of moving guys up to the next level.
Yeah, it's been Uh, it's been special to work with a lot of these guys, and I think the one unique thing about Akron is you asked me about these guys as players. I mean, most of them, if all of them, unbelievable people. Like, will help anybody. You can make a call, it can be non-soccer related, and they'd be happy to do what they can to help. And I think that kind of means a lot that the quality of the players, is not as high as the quality of the people that we produced.
MLS season's going to be starting up again soon. What do you have a hot take, maybe a dark horse to win it all that is kind of on your mind?
I obviously working with Caleb, I know how motivated he is, especially after a season he had, and I know how hard he's worked to put that roster. So I think I'm really excited to see what he did with that team. I think he's made some really good moves. Um, so my prediction is those guys are going to have one of the biggest point jumps, uh, from last year to this year. And uh, outside of that, you're just pulling for your guys that are in the league. A lot of guys still playing. It's hard not to watch Columbus and just enjoy what Darlington does game in and game out and how good of a player he is. But I'm also excited to see what happens with Emil. I think he was, if he can get the opportunity, he can be a very good player for the league.
Absolutely, Emilio Ashkalainen, St. Louis City, drafted by the hometown team for us at least, right?
Yeah, I told him I hope he gets a cut of, the jersey sales by letter, you know,
It's yeah.
with all that extra letters on the back there, I think he could make a nice side business.
I saw somebody on Twitter said that St. Louis was going to have to use some general allocation money to be able to buy more umlauts for the back of the
Yeah,
jersey.
right. They've found some unique names and spellings it seems.
They absolutely have. Well, Coach, I really appreciate you carving out some time to talk about Akron soccer, one of the premier men's soccer programs in the country, and looking forward to our paths crossing again, hopefully this spring. And best of luck with the offseason.
Yeah, thanks for having me and good luck with your upcoming games.